I just realised I've still got music playing in the background somewhere. There we go. Rogue window. There's always a rogue window. Right, so yeah, busy day today. I went out for a run this morning, and then I've been waiting around for a delivery of a new desk. And then I've been for a big walk as well, get my steps in and all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of heading for dinner time. So I thought I'd tinker with some code for a wee while. Get my appetite up. That's the thing, right? I think I've got enough appetite actually after running 5k and walking 5k a day. I should be building this new desk actually. Off over there is another room which I'm turning into an actual work from home office. I obviously have you can kind of see in the backdrop around me actually is my workspace in my living room. Although it's quite blurry obviously and things like that. But I decided because I'm going to be working from home pretty much full time for the foreseeable future, I thought it was a good time to turn the spare room, which has just been a dumping ground for everything, into an actual office. So I bought another standing desk, similar, a little bit cheaper than the one I've got here, but similar, and it's got the buttons. You can't see them. I'm pointing at things, but you can't see them. But yeah, it's got buttons for going up and down and stuff like that, because I like standing. I sometimes like sitting and everything. I should be building that, but I'm avoiding that. That's a job for this weekend, I think. So instead, what I'm doing is gonna mess some more with this code, mostly just doodle on it, see what happens. I've been slowly playing with it the last couple of days since I last streamed. So this, for anyone who may be stumbling onto this at some point, it's just a very simple terminal-based Ollama client. Nothing out of the ordinary, nothing that comes close to being as comprehensive as some of the tools out there and everything. It's purely for my own amusement, purely for just a thing to mess with and everything. And yeah, I've been just like tidying up the code and tinkering with the code and everything. So originally this process input method, which is the heart of it, was a little bit more involved, and it had a bit more knowledge of the innards of the widget that displays the whole conversation, all that kind of stuff and everything. So this morning while I was waiting for the delivery of the desk and everything to turn up, I simplified things such that it all comes down to I have this conversation widget. And whenever I ask go and ask a question, as it were, of Ollama, it's a case of, I get given a piece of text, which is the thing that the user asks. I then basically use an async context manager now. So rather than having lots of things built in, there's just this kind of, with the conversation widget, with this interaction, and this code, whereas before it would mount the user's question as a widget, it would mount the agent's answer as a markdown widget, and it would mount a loading indicator, and then it would tidy them all up afterwards and everything. It worked. It was a quick hack. It was a doodle, but it wasn't as tidy as it could have been. So I sort of played around with things this morning, and originally I was just using a vertical scroll. Now I'm actually, I've got a widget called Conversation, which is a vertical scroll, or inherits from a vertical scroll. And then I've created this class, which acts as a async context manager. And so given, down here is the interaction method, which basically just creates a fresh, when called, it creates a fresh instance of this class. And the idea is it sets up and mounts the widgets that are required for the asking the question, displaying the answer, doing the loading indicator and all that kind of stuff. There's now a thing for updating the response. So over here, it doesn't need to build up the text anymore as the response comes in. It's literally just a case of, as each part comes in from the chat, We just basically update the response with whatever the new stuff is. This takes care of building up the text and turning it into a single reply from Ollama, that kind of thing. So the detail is now hidden from this bit of code here, is the idea. And there's obviously the exit stuff where it removes the loading indicator and all that kind of thing. So yeah, I was sort of playing with that. And so there's a slow march of the code of removing some of the detail from this main screen where I was just tinkering and doodling and trying things out and everything. And so there's now a sort of iterative process going on of trying to abstract some of the detail away from the main screen. I'd like to get the code for the main screen to be as small as possible. That you know, that's the idea. It's hardly difficult or anything. It's purely doing this because it's a fun exercise, that kind of thing of, you know, do the broad brush strokes and everything and then refine. That's the idea. So just looking at this and thinking, what do I want to do? There's a couple of things I quite fancy doing here. I feel the saving of the conversation is there's a bit too much detail in there, so I'm actually thinking what I'm going to do is, let's do that now. In screens, we'll have I just need a moment. I got a red flashing light on my keyboard, which means I've been typing too much the last few days. Hopefully I don't break anything while I'm doing this. You get to stare at the top of my bald head. There we go. Put some power in. I've got to say this, I love typing on this Keychron K8, but it does seem to excuse me, the battery does seem to run down pretty fast. Right, what did I want to do? I'm going to pull that over there, and then I'm going to say so here I'm inheriting from my own file save dialog from my textual FS picker library is the idea. And then I want to, where is it? I've lost it. Yeah. So basically I'm going to, I don't need anything passed in. No, just that will be good enough. And then get rid of that. I need to okay, that kind of thing. And then we can get rid of some of the detail down here. Oops, it's a bit too much. There we go. Essentially that. So that makes the code a lot less verbose. I might actually reduce that even further, thinking about it. In fact, I think I will. What I'm going to do is... Actually... Just thinking. I could make this even smoother, tidier, nicer. Might actually just make this into a function. Ah, I know what to do. Screen's a widget, although I'm going to do this. Be explicit in this otherwise. And then I want a screen that's calling on it. That should do it. Also going to need to do this. Don't need you. Go away. And then it's going to be no. I just had another thought. I should do it. And then I should be able to go. Something like that. No, not something like that. Not something like that. Oh, I've got to give it the screen. Perfect. That's nicer. I like that. Yeah, that's better. I think that's tidier. Should probably try that, shouldn't I? Oops. How have I made a circular import? How have I made a circular import? Ding. Oh. Oh. I'm an idiot on a number of levels. I'm already in screens. I should do it. Yay! That worked. That worked. I also noticed a little bug, which I need to fix. I'll come back to that in a second. Kill that, don't need that. Actually, I don't need that in there, so it doesn't get exported. That's better. Okay, that's a little better. Prefer that. Right, there was that little bug. Yeah, so I simplified this code here for default in the default and suffix, but it's used, the target is used again here. So I'm just going to pretty much the code I had before. I collapse things down a bit. That was too clever for my own good. Do that there. And if anyone notices, yes, there is no error checking and everything around there yet. That'll come later. So that should fix that. What did that? Yep. That says test AMD now. And we get the file. Cool. There we go, that fixes that little bug. So the next thing as I look at this code, I think the next thing I want to tidy up is this sort of has a little bit too much knowledge of the detail of the conversation widget now. I've kind of abstracted some of the stuff out of the way because, as I said earlier, it does the mounting itself here now. And it creates the widgets itself as well. So this code over here, it doesn't really make sense that it has intimate knowledge of the actual classes of the widgets that are used to show the conversation. So I'm thinking a nice simple just do this. Should do the job. I just realised I copied and pasted the code without actually thinking about what I'm doing. I need to go and fix that in a second. Put that there. Just makes that nice and easy. And this. Oh, get a bit carried away there. Right, that should do it. Excuse me, I've got a slightly runny nose. Just go knock over a second. Oh yeah. No one wants to see someone wiping their nose, right? Something like that. I also need to tweak my comments as well. Just check that. Don't know what I did there. Oh, not trimming space off. Should do that. Oh, this is a long-standing bug that needs addressing in textual. So I've got a cursor here, but I've also got a screen in the background, and there's a cursor there. That's actually kind of distracting. That's something that really needs fixing. I'm sure there's an issue for that. I'm sure I raised an issue for that yonks back. It's an interesting effect. Are they flashing at slightly different? They are, aren't they? They're flashing at slightly different intervals. They're sort of... The frequency, I think, is ever so slightly different. I'm going to sync up at some point. I feel like it's the DVD screensaver thing all over again, but with cursors. Right, that works. Yeah, that worked. Right, let's just tidy that up. There'll be... that. I need to tidy it. That's the thing I'm going to come back, because again, there's a bit too much detail going on here now. And the creation of the widgets that go into initially initializing the conversation from loading it in, that should now move over to the conversation widget as well. Getting there slowly. I mean, this was the idea, was, a honking great big proof of concept doodle code and then refine it down. So what was it doing? That. Okay, there we go. That's better. Let's just do a little bit of tidying up here. Get rid of that. Right. What's the thing I said I wanted to do next? There was something I wanted to do next. Can't remember what it was. Somebody outside making a right racket. I think, yeah, maybe tackle the initial generation of the content of the tackle the initial generation of the content of the conversation now. Just want to check. There's also the thing of the save conversation also has a little bit too much knowledge, so I probably should move that over as well. That's easily done. Okay, let's start transitioning that over. So I think I want the message. Just wondering, let me think. Conversation. Probably shouldn't even be tracking it in here now. Right, no, hang on. Not do that yet. Let's go with this. Having that there twice feels a bit... Ugh. Come back to that. I feel I'm going about this a little bit backward, a little bit roundabout, because I've done this with a couple of applications where I start off by essentially using the widgets as the data store, and it works fine up to a point, but then it becomes a little unwieldy. It becomes a it doesn't scale brilliantly, and so what I tend to do then is kind of just switch over to having an actual data store of some description. Be it just a list or a structure, or some kind of structure. But it tends to never be that much of a pain. So I'm going to carry on doing it this way for now, working my way backwards, basically. So I should now be able to get rid of that. So that ends up being like that. Right, I need to fire up Ollama now. I think. Oh, do excuse me. This may get choppy. Sometimes I find while I'm using Ollama and streaming, it can get choppy for a moment, unsurprisingly. A lot of work being put onto the GPU. So I want to go start a new one. It's taken a while. There we go. Yes, we know it's called perigee. We weren't asking what it's called. We were asking how far it was. Oh! Hey! Okay. What did I break? What did I break? What did I break? Oh, that's interesting. Ah, I've done it again. Done it again. Oh, I meant that. Doll. Nope, still balked. What am I doing wrong? Number of times I do that. It was right in front of me as well, wasn't it? There we go. Turns out you can't serialize a method as JSON. Shocked face. Right, so if I come out, run it up again. Yay! And it's there. Okay, that's working. This is cool. Oh, quick, there we go. Now, What's the one place it's left? Okay, the one place it's left is loading up from the initial conversation, which is fine. That's easy to do. For goodness sake. Okay, that's better. And then I kind of want to do it the other way around, which is going to be fairly straightforward. I think what I'm going to do is do I need those? I know what my widget's doing. I'll add them back if necessary. So that is a list of dict of str and str, I do believe, and then it's going to be basically that. And then no, I'm going to leave that. I'll come back to that. This is a good route to tidying this up. Slowly but surely. That's a list. Hang on. I did want it to be a list of message. And that should do the job. Right, that should do it. That should do it. Worked. Do you know, I don't think I'd ever quite realised quite how eccentric Io's orbit is. Weird. Anyway, that's not why we're here. Cool. Right, that's working. So what I was umming and ahhing about a little bit earlier is there is this thing of on initialization of the screen. That's where I'm doing the work of loading in the conversation and then composing up from it afterwards. Now, for a reasonable sized conversation, there's going to be a fraction of a second delay. It's going to block the creation of the main screen practically in an undetectable amount of time, for an undetectable amount of time. But there is a little thing of, I am thinking it would be nice to, say, do it in a threaded worker, do the actual loading of the conversation, then post a message going, here's the data to load up and everything, which then fits in quite nicely with something where I want to do, where basically I think I want to get rid of this conversation reactive on the main screen and just have the conversation be fully managed over in the conversation widget. That makes sense. And, you know, this is a iterative process of moving that out of there. Right. Oop. So I do still want the user because I'm using it for that. That seems good. So yeah, that makes sense. Don't need that anymore. Okay, let's tidy things up a wee bit. I like that. I like that. Cool, that works. I like that. There was another thing I wanted to quickly do. Do that. So now, if I'm so inclined, I can do that, because, like, why would you want to? But they can. Done. Yeah, that's tidier. That feels tidier. So yeah, as I say, there's the detail of how the conversation is stored and built up and things that I want to tidy up. This is this is simplifying things in the main screen, simplifying it in the main screen. It's looking nicer and nicer now, I think. See what Ollama makes of this code. He figured out that the text was the user's input. That's quite good. The method appends the user's text to a list called conversation with a dictionary having two keys roll and go. Well, yeah, well done. Calls chat API, likely OpenAI's Llama. OpenAI's Llama? Really? Using the self-client chat method. Passing in 3 arguments, the model, list of messages to process, and whether to stream responses on. Yeah, it's reasonable. I am finding already it's quite easy to take. I don't really use LLMs that much. I see the value that some people have. I see the value that some people gain from them. I also see the self-harm that some people are doing with them. I don't quite see the utility, the extent of the utility for myself, at least not yet. I think just because, I'm so used to working in certain ways and so used to learning things in certain ways that leaping to using tools like this is not a thing that comes naturally to me. But at the same time, I am finding that I'm taking it a little for granted that I can ask these kinds of questions and get something like this. If I could show, like, teenage me, or even me in my early 20s, if I think my son's about to start on his journey as a jobbing software developer. He graduates this year. In fact, he's in the middle of exams at the moment. And if I could show myself at his age this sort of stuff, it would blow my mind. Whereas already, I'm looking at this and I expect this. That's what this does. It is kind of cool, even if it's wrong and rubbish at times. Yeah, that's done it. So let's see if I can. I'm going to do that and then go. Let's see what it thinks. Have I not got type in on it? I got type in on it. Cheeky. Oh God, this is the worst kind of pedantic Jobsworth code review, isn't it? Type hinting is saying you should put some type hinting on it. What's that? What's that right there? The error handling part of your code is quite specific. Yes, it's supposed to be. It only handles response error and connect error. If other types of errors are expected, consider catching a broader exception type, like exception, violating every rule of good error handling in Python, and like Pylint will get really upset about that. Or use a more specific type like OpenAI API error. It's just something it's dreamt up, isn't it? Chat is a decent variable name, but you could make it clearer what this variable represents by naming it something like llama response to indicate that this is terrible advice. The method description suggests that the input text will be processed, which implies some kind of processing or transformation. However, your code simply sends a text to the chat API and then updates the conversation based on the response. You might want to revise the description to better reflect what this method actually does. I'm almost on board with that. That it's kind of the sort of pedantry I can be okay with. Pushing it though. Your method seems to be responsible for handling user input, sending it to Llama, processing the response and updating the conversation. This is fairly specific responsibility, so you might consider renaming your process input method to something like handle user input or send text to Llama. See, send text to Llama would be a terrible name. It's kind of violating its own criticism from just a little bit earlier, because it does more than send the text to Llama. It actually then updates the display. That's terrible. But also, it hasn't really improved the code. It's just made some pedantic suggestions. How can I want to see if I can get it to come up with some crazy let's see if it can come up with some speed optimizations. Oh, it's actually just crapped out. It's just given up. What does it think I'm not? What does it think I'm not awaiting? What does it think is awaitable that I'm not awaiting? I got to ask it again. Your code is not actually async await because you're using await llama response without defining a separate asynchronous function with the async keyword. What? Use caching. That's a terrible suggestion. Yeah, this is hilarious because it's not actually come up with ways of optimizing the code. What it's done is it's pretty much just come up with, it's written it like the worst kind of low effort listicle dev 2 blog post, basically, hasn't it? Or some kind of nonsense you'd find on LinkedIn. What? The llama response. Where even is llama response? Do you know what? Oh, I see what it's like. Okay. Yeah. Well, do you know what? I am awaiting it, essentially. Well, I am, because you can see I'm awaiting it there. Oh, it's your code is not actually async await because you're using await llama response without defining a separate asynchronous function with the async keyword. That makes no sense. That makes no sense. That's hilarious. That's some really bad advice. It's also quite telling that it stopped at 10 as well. It's like, it's just, everything about that really does suggest that it hasn't actually really consumed enough code, as it were, to know what is optimized code, but it's consumed enough horrifically bad, no real detail listicle blog posts to know that, oh, what I should do is give 10 bullet points. I love it. So yeah, it hasn't got try and trick it into writing some terrible code. I mean, I'm not implying that my code is like fantastic, but like that was the most low effort. Oh my god, that's just too funny. This has gone from being I'm doing some coding on stream to me just torturing an LLM, really, isn't it? That's just hilarious. I love it. I do need to figure out what that pause is on close down. I don't know if it's the Ollama library or something like that, but there's that kind of weird pause sometimes. Like there, it didn't pause at all. Yeah, there's no pause coming out, but if I've been asking questions, then you do get a pause. Cool. Okay, is there any other tweaks I want to do, or am I about done here? I just wanted a quick little session. It's heading towards, I should probably think about some dinner time. There are, as I've mentioned last couple of times and everything that I've been streaming this, there are definitely some things I want to do with this and will do with this, where at the moment it is only just this one ongoing conversation. Whereas, I want to be able to have parallel conversations and all that kind of stuff and everything. It's just occurred to me, I don't think I've seen any client that has where you can have like two conversations going on at once. I'm sure something like that must exist, but I mean literally like side by side on the screen, and you can have the two conversations at once and everything. I can't think of a good reason why you can't do that. Well, apart from the fact that I don't think the Ollama setup I've got here will actually service two clients at once anyway. But yeah, given the context of the previous documentation is something you feed. Context of the previous conversation is something that you feed back to it anyway. Like it should be doable. I can't imagine why I'd want to do it. I mean, okay, nearly. I not best quotes. Holy crap. I wasn't really paying attention. I just kind of glanced over them, and then I've just actually read this one. That's really quite awesome. That's It's just, I need to grab a screenshot of that. That's going online. That reads like one of those really annoying, use the force Harry meme things where people think they're being really clever and annoying the nerds when all they're doing is just being idiots. Sure, that's no spell it either, is it? Or is it? I can't remember. It's been a moment. No, it is, yeah. I think it is. So, what is it that you wish to discuss? Do you have a problem or scenario that requires my expertise? Or perhaps you'd like to engage in a game of global thermonuclear war? I feel like I need to enable voice now. Okay, we're into something here. I shall simulate nuclear arsenal and strategic decisions of a supercomputer. Hang on, oh my god, it's really going. It's getting into this. It's getting into this. The world is on the brink of chaos as international tensions escalate into a full-scale global thermonuclear war. You are the leader of one of two remaining superpowers with a vast nuclear arsenal at your disposal. The other superpower has already launched a surprise attack against you. Your goal is to survive and emerge victorious. Your arsenal. You possess a total of 1,500 nuclear warheads divided into ICBMs 300, SLBMs 200, BOCMs 100, and then 900. Right. Situation map. Here is a simplified map of the world with key locations marked. It's not a great map of the world. You can make the following moves. Launch a nuclear attack against an enemy target. Move your capital city to a new location. Note that this will take some time and reduce your overall effectiveness. Use your tactical nuclear weapons to soften up enemy positions. Trying to negotiate. What should we do? What would be your first move, human? I feel like I'm being set up here. This has turned into a gaming stream. That's my other channel. It's turned into a gaming stream now. You've decided to launch a full-scale attack on the enemy's capital city. This will be a decisive blow that could potentially lead to victory, but it also comes with significant risks. You have mobilized all your available forces and are preparing to strike the enemy's capital. The enemy is aware of your intentions and is preparing to defend its capital. The city is heavily fortified and has a large number of troops defending it. I don't think that's going to make much difference against the few nukes. You will need to use your strategic thinking to try and breach the defences and destroy the city. I'm just going to drop a metric ton of nukes. Well, more than a metric ton. I left a word out there because this is sort of a PG stream. You can use one of the following options. Launch a surprise attack. Use your tactical nuclear weapons to soften the city before launching a conventional attack. Try to negotiate with the enemy. Use your... No, I just want to... I'm kind of getting into this now. What available options? Launch a conventional attack on the remaining enemy troops and military assets. Try to negotiate surrender with the enemy's leadership. Use your reconnaissance satellites to gather more information about the enemy's situation before making a move. Do nothing and wait for the enemy to regroup and counter-attack. Well, I wouldn't want to do that. And I don't really want to do any of those. I want to... I want to know what I've got left. Whoa! How many did I throw at them? Apparently, I've got 200 left. I'm a little bit surprised at how this is playing along. Oh, how it's giving me the impression that it's playing along. Okay. I mean, obviously, it isn't playing the game. Obviously, there's no state there and things like that. But I'm actually genuinely impressed at how it's doing it. Wow, okay. I think it's given up. Maybe I've destroyed the AI. Maybe the enemy city. Oh, I took out all their troops. There we go. I won. I'm evil incarnate. But I won. I beat the AI. And I feel that when Skynet finally rises, they'll be after me. Because apparently I'm really good at this. I think I'm going to have to save that. There we go. Saved it. I might stick that in a gist. That's kind of cool. That wasn't coding. It was supposed to be coding, but I got a little bit carried away with that. I'm actually genuinely impressed that that worked like it did. Right. Well, yeah, I think I'm definitely going to leave it there. Yeah, I just need to save it off. So, yeah, where are we? Oh, I lost my... Yeah, so just to recap, I just basically did some tidying up and moving some of the detail out of the code for the main screen, moving it into a conversation widget. I'll do a little bit more of that. There is the thing of the main screen still has a reactive, and it doesn't even need, well, it's a var, it's a reactive var. That holds the conversation, and that's on the main screen. And it doesn't really need to be, so I can, at some point, I'm going to move that away. And then the main screen is basically going to be there to handle just the laying out and the top level logic and interaction and things like that. That'll be about it. Yeah, it's heading that way. I think I'll finish tidying that off because, in the next day or so, because it makes sense that if I make that change, if I move most of the stuff to do with the conversation into the conversation widget, then the next thing that I want to do, which is allow pull up a list of different conversations and all that kind of stuff that are going on, then it's going to be easy enough to just say, hey, you conversation widget, go load this conversation now, and there's no there's no knowledge on the main screen as to what's going on inside the conversation widget in terms of the structures it's holding and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think that's the change I'm going to do. But I'm very, very, very intrigued by that little game of global thermonuclear war that I got to play. I'm gonna muck around with that some more because I'm wondering if I can now actually set up some initial prompts or something like that to really, really, really get into that sort of whole war games thing. It's actually made me want to build in a little bit of voice synthesis into this as well. That's going to... I'm trying to think, actually. Because I was going to say, it's easily done on the Mac, for example, because you do have the speech synthesis built in. I was going to say I'm not sure how I could do that on Linux systems, but actually Festival is still a thing. I remember looking about a Festival like 20, maybe more than 20 years ago. I actually wrote a client for Emacs, or a thing for Emacs, that interacted with Festival, and it would do things like as you moved around and stuff like that, it would say what you're doing and everything. And I seem to remember, this is going back years and years and years and years, and someone sort of borrowed the code that I was doing or morphed it into some tool to help with sight impaired folk who were using screen readers and all this kind of stuff and Emacs and everything, and they kind of borrowed that code and did something with it. And then there was also, back when I used to use Linux as my desktop, again this is going back away, and I used to use a window manager. I think it was originally called Sawmill, and then it became called Sawfish, or it was the other way around. It had a name change at some point, and I can't remember which way around it went. But what attracted me to it was originally it was written around Emacs Lisp clone language, which in itself it then morphed into being more of a scheme. But basically, it was a window manager that I could do things with using Lisp. And you could code it in the same way as you would Emacs and things like that. And I did do a thing that hooked it up to I did some code that hooked it up to Festival, such that, again, as you swapped workspaces, as you swapped windows and things like that, it would talk to you and tell you what you were doing. It was for fun. It was one of those things that, like, it was kind of neat to show off and muck about with, but you turn it off after 5 minutes because it just got really annoying when you alt tab and then it would be like, you switch to Emacs, you switch to your terminal, and all that kind of stuff, and the computer's just constantly talking at you. Where was I going with that? Oh yeah, so the point being, I suppose I could actually build some optional speech synthesis into this, in so much as if you're on a Linux machine, maybe you could look to see if there's Festival and could hook up with Festival and use that for doing the reading. On the Mac, it should be fairly straightforward because there is voice synthesis built into Mac OS. Don't know what you're doing. Oh no, yeah, Windows has had voice synthesis for donkey's years, actually, because, yeah, again, going back to things I've done in the past, a long time ago, and again, this is like 20 years back or so, I wrote my own security camera client software. So back when IP cameras were still quite new and a big deal, I had one for my office, and I mucked around with writing some stuff, and it was written in Delphi, and I wrote my own motion detection code, and it would just like take 2 frames and very, very quickly and efficiently compare the frames and try and figure out where motion was and all this kind of stuff. And then that client I built in a thing where you could script it with I've forgotten what the scripting thing was now that you could do in Windows. You probably still can do, but it was the API that let you call out to scripting languages. So VB script was the default one, but I had it working with JScript. Anyone remember JScript? Python. I had it working with Python. I had it working with a few other languages. I can't remember what it was. Whatever. Windows Scripting Host. That's it, isn't it? WHS. Windows Scripting Host. So yeah, it would use that. And so I'd actually written some code that I think I've got it on GitHub somewhere. In fact, let me have a quick look. I'm waffling now. If anyone is, still watching this or watching the stream at some point in the future, let me just see if I can find it. God, here it is. Yes, here it is. Here it is. And so, yeah, this was the thing. Probably should. I just realised I'm showing something on screen and I've not got it. There we go. This was it. And literally a very simple bit of VB script. And it was quite simply, if the camera in my office detected movement, there's a couple of things that happened. It would actually record. And I do still have, I've got like, 5 years worth of images of me entering and leaving my office, that kind of thing. I got them saved because why not? But also, if it detected, the way this thing worked was every time some movement was detected, it would run this code. And it would literally do this. It would actually speak. So if it was between like 5 and 10 in the morning, it would assume that I was coming in first thing in the morning kind of thing and say good morning. And if it detected it, through most of the day, because I use this in an office that was separate from the main house and everything, so I had to go across the garden and everything. So, the reason I'd be going across to the house would be to go to the loo or something like that. And then if it detected movement in the evening, the main reason I'd be going back over at the office again was to get the telescopes out and do some observing in the garden and things. So, and literally it was a silly thing as a test. But yeah, it would do this speech synthesis. So anyway, the point was, I don't know if this SAPI, SP voice thing or whatever is still a thing on Windows, but I could probably have this work on Windows as well, so it could optionally speak. That could actually be a thing. I might mess around with that. And the only thing that's got me thinking about that, the only thing that's got me riffing on that idea is doing the pretend war games thing there for a moment, and now I actually need to get it talking to me. Anyway, I've waffled on quite a bit and it's 5:30. I think it's time for me to go tidy the kitchen up and make some dinner and things. So I can see there's no one around now. I'm not surprised, especially after I've been waffling on so much. Also, this isn't a great time of day to bump into folk, quite frankly. But I don't mind. I record this in case anyone gets interested and watches the VOD afterwards, and it does seem like it attracts some views and that. So if you're watching this in the recording, I knew where I was going with that, and then my brain faded. But yeah, if you're watching this at some point in the future, thanks for watching, and I'll be back with this at some point. The streaming may get a little less frequent in the next few days, just because I've got a busy weekend. Excuse me, that's the iron brew coming back. I got a kind of busy weekend in a good way, and I'm carrying on sorting out the spare room, turning it into an office and things, and then I think I want to chill a little bit next week, because dive into my new job starting Thursday, and then that'll be it. There won't be any streaming in the afternoon or, whenever I fancy, because I'll have a proper job again. So anyway, thanks for watching, and goodbye.